Hey, Odis, welcome back to the CSUSB Advising Podcast. My name is Matt Markin, an academic advisor here at Cal State San Bernardino. And on today's episode, we're going to learn more about the Master of Science in Geology. And here to discuss the program is Dr. Tandis Bidgoli from the Geological Sciences Department. Dr. Bidgoli, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're great that you're here with us to talk more and share about this great program. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in higher ed?
Yeah, I've had kind of a complicated route into higher ed. Like many of the undergraduates at Cal State San Bernardino, I actually started off my educational path at a junior college, eventually transferred to San Francisco State University, and then ended up going on to get a Master of Geology from University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And so once I finished up, I kind of was still interested in probably pursuing a PhD at that time, but I ended up getting a really great job offer from ExxonMobil. So I actually ended up going into industry for a period of time. Eventually left, took a leave of absence to go and get a PhD, and then decided I didn't really want to go back to my industry job. So I actually ended up staying on at University of Kansas, where I had been completing my PhD, and stayed on in a research scientist post there with the Kansas Geological Survey. And then eventually I took the leap into the academic path that I was really most interested in, and got a faculty position at University of Missouri. So I was there for about 4 years as an assistant professor, but my heart and my home has always been in California. So when the Cal State San Bernardino position opened up, I applied for it immediately. And I've been here since 2022. So it's kind of been a long route, but 20 years later, I'm back in the CSU system and really excited to be here.
Yeah, and it's great to hear, starting at, as a student in the CSU system at San Francisco, and then now kind of going full circle and now teaching in the CSU system.
It's been amazing. So I'm really, really happy. It is, I think when I look back, it was kind of the job I had always wanted, but it took me sort of a tortuous route to get to where I am today.
Yeah, and I think that's, hopefully with our Yodis listening to this, they realize like not everything's a straight path. Sometimes
right.
our path goes all in different areas, but we wind up where we need to be.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So, you're here to chat about the Master of Science in Geology. So like, let's say students like, I've, seen this program. How would you describe the Master of Science in Geology to a student?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that happens when you're an undergraduate is you're taking a lot of courses, right? But those courses, while they're scaffolded in some fashion, right, they tend to be compartmentalized. So you're learning about specific subject matters and specific topics. What the Master of Science ultimately allows you to do, I think, is really kind of take your understanding of geology to the next level. It's a much more integrative understanding of geology that you ultimately develop as a master's student. And part of that, one of the big components of the master's program is a research experience. And so you begin, right away in the program, starting to develop a research project with your advisor. And then you ultimately, learn the methods that you're going to use, develop a proposal for that, and then execute the research, and then write it up as your master's thesis. And so you sort of take a project from start to finish, but in that process, you're also utilizing all of the training that you got in your undergraduate, plus, enhancements that you're getting through additional coursework in the master's program. So that project experience, I mean, to me, at least as a master's student, really was what made me feel like I was a geologist. Like I understood when I walked away from my master's program, I felt like a professional geologist. I had a really much deeper understanding of geology. Because again, you're putting all of those independent classes you took as an undergraduate together and really synthesizing.
Yeah, and I like that how you put it, that it's taking it to that next level once you're in that master's program. Now, of course, there's an admissions process, and I know for like undergraduates, they apply, they submit transcripts. What's the admissions process like for this program?
Right. So if a student is interested, one of the first things I would recommend is like jumping on our website. We have a lot of detailed information about how to actually apply to the graduate program. The application process is relatively straightforward. Of course, you're going to complete, I think there's an online application form that asks some basic information about your background. And then you would prepare a statement of interest. This is a common sort of thing that's requested of students for graduate admissions to most grad programs. And that interest statement usually, tells a little bit about your own background, your own interests in geology, and sort of what you want to do maybe, or if you're considering different career pathways, what those might be. And so students will prepare that and request 3 letters of recommendation from faculty from their undergraduate programs. And so once the admissions materials are received, then we have a graduate committee that will review those applications. One of the big things that I really recommend students do before they consider applying is, of course, looking at the program requirements, but reaching out to faculty in the department you want to apply for graduate school. So any master's program you ultimately pursue, I would really recommend, checking out the department, checking out the faculty, and trying to find a faculty member who your interests really align with. So for example, if you're really excited about faults and earthquakes, look on the website and see who does the research that's most related to faults and earthquakes. If it's paleontology, find that paleontologist in the department, reach out to them, talk to them about the kinds of projects that they work on, and make sure that what you want to do sort of meshes with the potential advisor you might want to work with. Generally speaking, we don't admit students without an advisor. So somebody has to really be willing to advise that student. So I think it's really important for students to kind of initiate that contact with faculty in the department and find someone, that's going to be their champion ultimately in the program.
Yeah. So I'd love to get your advice on this because, you're mentioning to a student to initiate that contact with the faculty member. But sometimes, we have students that might be a little nervous to initiate that contact or, when should I do that? Or, sometimes they realize maybe towards, when they're closer to graduating, like, oh, now I should really think about what I want to do after. What's your advice to a student of like maybe how soon they should start that and any tips on, being brave enough to initiate that contact with the faculty member?
Yeah. So most geology master's programs, they begin kind of their applications start to come in, I would say, in the late part of the fall and into the early part of the spring. Our application deadline is April 30th. So I would really encourage students, in that fall semester that you're kind of thinking about applying to graduate school, to reach out. And I know it's a big, scary step to contact faculty, but we are so excited to work with students. Like that is, I think, graduate advising is actually one of the favorite parts of most of our jobs, right? Because for us, this is somebody we're going to get to work closely with over a 2-year time frame and really work together on solving a geologic problem. And so advisors are excited to have potential mentees and to talk with students about their own research. That's the one thing most geology faculty are, if you want to get them talking about anything, ask them about their own research and they'd be happy to share that information. So I would just say to students, don't feel bashful, don't feel nervous about it. And, our campus, if you're on the Cal State San Bernardino campus, pop into any of our offices. We're almost always there. And you're going to see a friendly face on the other side of that door. But yeah, get that application in, and usually our application deadline is April 30th. So, there's still time if students are interested in applying to the graduate program. We're a little over a month out from our deadline.
All right, sounds good. And you were mentioning it earlier about, the master's program kind of going to the next level from the undergrad and students are, working on a project during their time in the program. But generally speaking, with some of the classes students are taking, can you talk a little bit about what students might be learning?
Yeah, so we have a range of different graduate level courses. So when you enter into the program, you're going to have to do 30 credit hours of coursework. 6 of the credit hours are actually part of a graduate seminar sequence that we have. So In that seminar sequence, students are, of course, learning some additional information about geology, namely geochemistry, but they're also developing their skills in presentations and preparation of written products and things. And so there's a component of those 6 credit hours that's actually focused on really building soft skills. And those are things I think as undergraduates, you don't get a huge amount of practice doing things like presentations, especially, technical scientific presentations, right? And so there's 15 credit hours of elective courses. And again, the topics are quite variable. It sort of depends on what our graduate faculty are interested in teaching. And some of that is also based on what the cohort of students that are coming in looks like and what their projects are like. So for example, this semester we have a graduate course that's running on quaternary geology. So looking at very young geologic systems, and that covers the range of topics from dating methods that are used on young systems to different field methods for data collection in those types of systems. So, and the reason that course is running right now is almost every student in our program is doing something related to relatively young geology right now. Some of it is young faults, some of it is glaciers, depending on the cohort of students, we'll have different courses that, ideally we tailor our program to the students that are in it. But there's other classes, for example, in the spring, I'm hoping to teach a class on geochronology. So we're going to really look at how we date rocks and all the different methods of dating rocks and isotopic systems. The graduate courses, I would say, are more challenging, obviously, than our undergraduate courses, and in part because you have to have a certain amount of background geologic knowledge to really dive into the topics that we cover in the graduate curriculum. So those graduate level courses assume you've already taken a class on petrology, you've already taken a class on mineralogy, you already have background in chemistry, math, physics. So the courses are more challenging, but the topics are, ideally relevant to the things that the students are working on in the department for their own research.
Yeah, and you were kind of, chatting, and it kind of goes to my next question. And so you're kind of mentioning, like, with the graduate level courses, you mentioned a little bit about, what students are learning in the classes, kind of how they're a little bit different than the undergrad, that they're also kind of learning those soft skills. Anything to add about, like, kind of the difference between, okay, I'm an undergraduate student in an undergraduate class going up for my bachelor's degree versus I'm a graduate student in a class, with my professor and the other students?
Yeah, one of the things that's also a component of the curriculum we have is, again, as part of that research experience, we also have, I believe it's 9 credit hours that are that are part of that scaffolded research experience that students will have. So a big dimension of that actually ends up being in their second semester of graduate studies. Students will focus on proposal development. And so they will work closely with their research advisor to build the statement of the problem, dive into the hypotheses that they're going to be testing through their research experience, the methods that they're going to be using, the issues with those methods, and then ultimately over the summer of that first academic year and into that fall semester, they're going to be working on new data collection. And one of the exciting expectations of our graduate program is that you're really contributing something new to the science. And so this is original research. We're not doing canned projects. You are actually contributing to the body of knowledge that geologists everywhere are going to ultimately use. And so once the students have completed that research, usually in their last semester, the focus is going to be really on writing that research up and sharing and communicating it with the broader geoscience community. So one of the expectations we have is that our graduate students also present their research at national and regional conferences and really get out there and share the science that they've been working on. And the hope ultimately is that those master's theses are either themselves a research publication or will at least contribute to another publication, maybe with another student, depending on the scale of the project and what results we have. So in the end, you're really contributing to published geologic research, which is really exciting. You'd be a co-author on, a journal article in a major geoscience journal. And that's a pretty exciting thing. I can still remember my first, paper that came out. It's pretty neat experience to have. But yeah, I mean, the overall, I think that experience that you get as a graduate student is somewhat unique. And again, it's kind of something where I think graduate students have to find, it's sort of like, I always consider sort of a Venn diagram where, one circle is your interest, one circle is the student's or the faculty advisor's interest, and then the other circle is what's feasible to get done in that kind of 2-year time frame, right? Yeah. So we try to find some overlap between those, and that really for every student ends up being kind of a unique experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's kind of like you're saying, they get to contribute and really kind of take part in what they're actually learning and researching, and in a way, kind of making a difference.
Yeah, you're contributing to the body of knowledge. So, that's a really cool thing.
Absolutely. And of course, a question you probably get to is the career question. So
Right.
let's say, students going for the Master of Science in Geology, can you talk about maybe whether it's career options that those that might be able to do with the degree, or what you've seen some of your graduates go into with the master's?
Yeah, so as geoscience majors, when students are finishing up their bachelor's programs, a Bachelor of Science in Geology is a very employable degree. So we're very fortunate as a discipline that our students can really finish up their bachelor's and just go straight into the workforce if that's kind of the career trajectory they want to have. But I will say that a master's degree, again, provides you this just extra training. I'm not sure that when I finished my bachelor's, I would have felt sort of job ready. That's not a criticism of the program that I was in, but we all kind of develop and grow at different timescales. And so I think for some students, going straight from a bachelor's to a master's makes a lot of sense. I think that there's a lot of growth and confidence building, I think, that takes place through a master's program. I think other students will go straight into the workforce, but one of the things they may find as they pursue whatever geological career path they take, that eventually, maybe you get 10 years in, that there are going to be some limitations with just a bachelor's degree, right? So there are some career advancement opportunities you may not be able to pursue without that master's. And so we do have quite a few students who have come back, to get that extra education that will allow them to then advance a little bit further in their professional path. So master's in geology, I think, will never, ever hurt you. It's really always going to be a benefit. And in terms of your overall salary, I think everyone is benefited by a master's degree. Your starting salary will automatically be higher, and then your career advancement potential and opportunities, I think, are going to be greater with that master's degree. And again, that's not to say you can't have a successful career with a bachelor's degree. We have a lot of alumni that are doing outstanding things and are wildly successful in their career paths. But certainly that master's degree is going to give you a bit of an edge and just allow you some more advancement opportunities over the course of your career.
Yeah. Now, of course, there's might be misconceptions too that someone might have about whether it's geology in general or potentially the master's program. Do you think there are any misconceptions that students might have?
Yeah, I think, I think there is, particularly, I would say at Cal State San Bernardino, we have a really unique population of students. We are a minority serving institution, Hispanic serving institution, and we have a lot of our students are first generation to college. I think the idea of graduate studies is scary for a lot of our students because many of them, again, don't have any role models in their own families for even getting a college degree. If you're the first person in your family pursuing that college degree, the idea of then going on and getting a master's degree, you've already exceeded everybody in your family's education level with just that bachelor's degree. So I do think that our students probably have a little more uncertainty and maybe fear about taking a step towards graduate studies. But again, what I would say is just from the standpoint of your salaries. I mean, even if you pay, if you're fortunate and you are able to get involved in a project where your advisor actually has some support to help pay for your graduate studies, that is a possibility in the geosciences. That's wonderful. But even if you pay for your tuition to pursue that degree path, you will recoup that money within the first 5 years of your professional, experience out of graduate school. So there is a significant financial gain, I think, by doing the graduate studies, but also I think in terms of that confidence building, I think that is one thing that our Cal State San Bernardino students struggle with for sure, is feeling confident in like the knowledge that they have. And a graduate education is one way to really build that confidence up. I think it's certainly where I develop my own confidence as a geoscientist. And I think that's something that that can be replicated for many students that pursue a master's in geology.
Right. And let's say students listen to this and they're like, you know what, this sounds very interesting. I may want to apply. I'm still not sure. I'm on the fence. Any advice you have for that student, or to to reach out to one of their geology professors?
Absolutely. Well, our department is really exciting. I think we hold a lot of social gatherings. That's one of the things about geology departments is they tend to be small, but that means we're really a tight-knit community, and there's a lot of support in our program for our undergrads and our graduate students. So in our department on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we often have social gatherings during Coyote Hour. So I would say try and pop into one of those events. Sometimes it's a potluck, sometimes it's a seminar, sometimes it's just a hangout that our geology club organizes. But come in and talk to the faculty and talk to the students. I think other students in our program are a great resource. And we have quite a few students who were undergrads and then transitioned actually into our graduate program. I'm very lucky this semester to be advising one of those students as a new master's student. So come talk to us. And I know, again, just stopping in and saying hi can be a scary thing, but I promise you that our department is a warm and welcoming place. Like, we really want students there, and we love to see our students be successful. And so, whatever we can do to help that and facilitate that, we're here for you.
Awesome. And I guess that's a good segue into my last question is, aside from that, are there any other resources that that your department offers that you want to mention?
Yeah, certainly. We have obviously all of the degree requirements and that kind of information is on our department webpage. But we also periodically host Zoom hangouts and Zoom chats to talk about either the undergraduate program or the graduate program. And that's information that we share on Instagram, as well as on LinkedIn and Facebook. So whatever social media platform you're on, just look up CSUSB Geology, and you'll be able to keep up with and find more information about different events that we're hosting and different informational gatherings we might have.
All right, sounds good. And we'll make sure to also include the link to the department website in our show notes. I feel like I've learned a tremendous amount about the master's program. So Dr. Bidgoli, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been fun.